What's up, family? Welcome back to another legendary reaction video. Let's go.
In the corner, double fake, jumper, it's good! Larry Bird!
It was 1989, and the Celtics were not the kings of the East, and Larry Bird wasn't the king of the NBA anymore.
You know, to his credit, he gets up and fights through it and goes out there and plays, but he is not a healthy person right now.
And the reason was simple: a double Achilles tendon surgery. Now, Bird had already proven everything in the NBA. He was a 3-time champion, a 2-time finals MVP, and 9-time All-NBA first team.
He was, I don't know, it may not be a real word, to describe, but it just say he was unbelievable in that series, and he was great.
But his injury had sidelined him for almost 12 months, and his status in the league was in jeopardy. The Celtics now had plenty of competition. More and more competitive teams were aspiring to become a dynasty. The golden era of the 1990s was beginning, and with it came superstars of all types who would deliver unrepeatable performances. And the East...
Is it me, family, or the 1990s all the way up to the early 2000s was the best time in the NBA? Like, please tell me that's not true, family. Comment down below what y'all think.
Was now dominated by the Detroit Pistons, who the previous season had eliminated both Boston and Chicago in the playoffs. Behind them, the perennial contenders, the Bulls, with the legendary Michael Jordan and the great Scottie Pippen, who had been the last season's most improved player. The Bulls were looking to overtake every team in the league, but what they didn't expect was those that they thought were dead still had a lot to say. Since Larry Bird was injured in that game against the Miami Heat in November 1988, he had gone through a long recovery process, a process that lasted 12 months and sidelined the forward for the entire regular season. And when he finally returned to full health, Bird wasn't about to stop being Bird.
Of course.
The problem was that in only his second game back from injury, Larry had a really tough test. He had to play the Chicago Bulls at the United Center. And, well, the Celtics, logically, still relied on their star. I mean, it's true that Robert Parrish was already 35 years old, Kevin McHale, 31, Dennis Johnson, 34, Larry Bird, 32. Their most important players were reaching the end of their careers.
Yo, that pump fake never fails. That over-the-head fake never fails with Bird, man. I wish somebody could bring that move back. I mean, obviously, they're not going to be able to do it like the OG, triple OG Larry Bird, but come on, man.
But management was confident that if they could recover the best version of Bird, they could still fight for everything. A situation kind of similar to what teams like the Lakers or the Warriors are going through today, who've been trying to get back to where they were a couple of seasons ago with a team that's going against the clock. But man, the Bulls were no longer that team Bird had managed to overcome with ease throughout his career. They had got Pippen with the 5th pick in the 1987 draft, and although he didn't make much of an impact during his rookie year in 1989, he was coming off being the most improved player. And then there's Jordan. He was 1,000 light years away from the Jordan of 1986. He was an even better scorer. He was more of a leader, and every day he seemed more unstoppable. That's why when November 4th, 1989 arrived, the game between the Chicago Bulls and the Boston Celtics had a clear favorite. I mean, the Bulls had reached the conference finals the previous season, and the Celtics had fallen in the first round. Jordan was confident that this time he could finally beat Boston, even with Bird available.
At the end of the day, I feel like wisdom and experience will always trump whoever feels confident, which congratulations on your confidence, but at the end of the day, experience will always... You know what I'm saying? Like, work smarter, not harder. I feel like that's what the experience, it comes with you working smarter, not harder. Because you may be a young cat in the game like MJ, but then you got Larry Bird who has been through it, experienced things. And it's great because it starts with confidence, but at the end of the day, gaining that wisdom, sometimes that comes through phases of you having to humble yourself. And Larry Bird, 12 months out on an injury, trust me, I most likely definitely believe that he didn't want to be out that at all. But even fighting through injuries, he still played fighting through injuries, And at the end of the day, Larry Bird is going to still show MJ a lesson because at the end of the day, you got the confidence. You came through. You went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then You know, you feel like you got things going in the swing of things, got momentum, you're on top of the world, but there's always that legend, the one with wisdom and experience that will definitely humble you, just like they were humbled through times of life where they gained that experience, right?
And he was certainly starting to have that extraordinary talent around him as well. Oh, and by the way, this game wasn't just Bird versus Jordan. The Bulls had John Paxson playing, and the Celtics had Jim Paxson, who was his brother.
I did not know that.
Jim Paxson Sr., who played 2 seasons in the NBA during the 1950s.
I didn't even know they had brothers. Ain't that a coincidence, man? You learn something new every day.
Say this because one of them is going to be very important later. Trust me, you'll see. So
John
finally,
Paxson.
the referee throws a ball in the air, and a game started that would make one of the two teams lose their undefeated record. Both franchises came in with a record of 1-0 after all. Now,
anyone with 10,000.
I think John Paxson is going to be the most significant one out of the brothers, not Jim, because I haven't even heard of Jim. Now, John Paxson came familiar, obviously, because MJ and the Bulls, but Jim, I never really heard of him, man.
Already in the first actions of the game, Bird shows his great vision, finding Jim Paxson while cutting from the top of the key. Now, if you usually watch the channel, you would have already seen many times how Larry was able to make plays from the low post with ease.
Of course.
The Celtics knew they had a lot at stake, so they came out very aggressive on defense, too. A clear example is this action in which John Bagley steals the ball from MJ and finds Bird, who finishes the play with an extremely tough high floater. Now, Boston was a team that season ranked well above average in offensive rating and slightly above average in defensive rating. But if they wanted to beat the Bulls at United, they knew they would have to tighten the screws. Another clear example of this is how Bird just jumped all over Jordan. He had to make sure he got 0 open looks. And throughout the game, you could just see the tension between the two stars who knew they had to go at it. As always, Bird was a menace from the low post. He just wanted Scottie Pippen, who was guarding him, to have nightmares that night. But his fadeaway from mid-range was always unstoppable. On this play, Bagley again found Larry wide open thanks to a nice Parrish screen and some lazy defense by Scottie, who gave him twice as much room as Bird needed to score from one of his hot spots.
They didn't even try to jump up like Larry Bird tried to jump up with MJ. So at the end of the day, like I said, wisdom, right? They knew they had to tighten the screws up while the Bulls got confident, and now they feel a little bit loose, and they feel like they could just control the momentum when they can. But at the end of the day, if you let them go too far and you don't tighten up your screws and if you don't tighten up your screws, metaphorically talking about the defense, which I'm referring to, then at the end of the day, you will get beat and you will lose the game.
But of course, Pippen was no longer a rookie. The kid had become a man and had plenty of poise to go after Larry on the other end of the court. Just look how he fearlessly goes to the hoop to score the layup. And of course, Michael was also starting to get himself going too. In fact, the Bulls were leading the way during the early stages of the game. Here's a perfect sign that age was starting to take its toll on the Celtics. Kevin McHale.
There ain't no sign of age. That's the first quarter, bro. You know, that's like when somebody run a race, right? And they start out running fast. That don't mean they gonna win the race. Come on, man. Come on. Don't do that, man.
Knocks down an elite fadeaway from the low post, but the Bulls come out in transition at light speed with their fresh legs, and Pippen gets a free dunk on the fast break. But again, Bird responds with a deep midi with shots like this one, where he practically is a step in front of the three-point line. The whole world knows that this is a literal layup for Larry. And to cap off his spectacular first quarter, he scores another bucket from the low post. This time, attacking the rim instead of looking for the mid-range. And watch how Pippen, who is a great defender, just can't do anything at all. Now, despite Bird's 10 points in the first quarter, the Bulls were leading 27-31. In addition to Jordan and Pippen, the Celtics also had to keep an eye on other Bulls like Bill Cartwright and Horace Grant, who also came out to
give the Celtics this credit, though, because even though the Bulls is trailing a little bit, they're not trailing by a lot. You know what I'm saying?
That day. But Larry was already beginning to realize that it was going to be very difficult to beat Chicago on this day. The second quarter didn't have much of a story either. The Celtics managed to get 3 points back on the scoreboard to go to halftime, trailing by only 1 point, 49-48.
See what I'm saying? They was just trailing by 3 to 4 points, and now they're trailing only by 1 point, the Bulls. Come on, man. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, man.
Thanks in part to Larry, who with actions like this was able to score from very difficult positions. Look at this textbook hook shot. From the low post, Bird not only would hit you with a fadeaway, he would switch it up last second and finish with a hook shot. Bird was different, okay?
Of course.
And then also with open shots like this one from mid-range, in which Ed Pickney uses the confusion of the loose ball to find Bird in a good position. Honestly, the Celtics weren't that far behind. Yes, the Bulls at that time were a better team, but Boston had enough firepower to pull off the upset. Yeah, sure, in a 7-game series, it seemed like a long shot, but on any given night, the Celtics could beat anyone. And in only his second game back from injury, Bird had 15 points at halftime. And there was no better sign for Jimmy Rogers that things could turn out well. Bird started the second half the same way he ended the first, with a shot in transition from mid-range. But the talk given at halftime by Phil Jackson, who, by the way, was coaching his second game as head coach of his career, seemed to have given Chicago's players some wings. You know, with this bucket by Jordan, the Bulls took the biggest lead of the night, a 7-point difference. And boy, did that raise their spirits. Look at this full-court lob pass from Jordan to Pippen, showing the chemistry they were starting to have. Mike practically threw this pass from his own three-point line. But of course, Bird would answer right after. He was like,
you know what I'm saying? He said, you could do it, but I could do it better. Tell him, Bird. Show him, man.
you know what? Now you're going to see how we do things, young man. And he goes on to score in the exact same way, catching and finishing a full-court outlet pass. Nevertheless, the Bulls managed to win the third quarter by 4 points and extend the deficit to 5. And with 12 minutes to play, the Celtics had to outscore the Bulls by 6 points playing away from home. So, to accomplish this impossible mission, Bird went to work. In this play, he doesn't even need it.
You heard that, man. Bird went to work. Come on, man. Never fails. Never ceases to amaze. And then for all those MJ fans, man, who was watching this video like, oh, yeah, MJ gonna win. Bird was getting old. Yeah, guess what I hear now? Guess what I hear now? Yeah.
Can shoot right away to score. He's able to create his own shot from mid-range after a pass from Bagley. And by the way, the Celtics point guard finished the game with 1 point and 10 assists. And Bird was still at it, using Kevin McHale's screen to get open at the right wing from where he scored once again. And the Celtics were starting to come out on top and managed to finally get ahead on the scoreboard. Now, do you remember the Paxson brothers? Well,
Yeah.
John, the one that played for the Bulls, had a pretty good game. He had 11 points.
I told you John would be more memorable than Jim Paxson because you don't even really hear Jim. He's like a low-key backseat guy.
Assists. But you know what his best play was? Well, look at this. The man scored the most pressured mid-range shot of the whole game to tie things up with only a few seconds left. An impossible shot that allowed the entire United Center to dream of victory yet again. But it was at this moment when Larry Bird had them all wake up. He scores again a spectacular fadeaway from the low post against two players, Michael Jordan.
That's a high shot, bro. You saw Michael Jordan gave it all he got in that jump.
Sprinting over to help, but it wasn't enough. Larry absolutely silenced the whole gym and showed that he was the same as he had always been. After the Celtics defense didn't even let Jordan fully shoot the desperate shot to try to win the game, it was over. Boston had outplayed Chicago.
Defense.
Larry Bird had been once again superior to Michael Jordan. More than 300 days after injury, Bird returned to the courts. People and scouts were doubtful as his injury was very serious and the forward was already 31 years old. However, surgery had come a long way since that time, and Larry once again demonstrated his ability to survive when he returned.
Yes, sir.
The Celtics won again in a matchup that they had always, from the beginning, dominated. But the Celtics would get a reality check. In a playoffs in which the Celtics fell in the first round to Patrick Ewing's Knicks, Bird maintained stellar averages of 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists per game. But his supporting cast was no longer the best in the league. It was no longer the most dominant. A new era of basketball was dawning, and the next generation was taking over the league. But still, Bird knew something. He knew that this entire generation aspired
Well,
to...
Bird was always a long-term thinker. IQ is amazing. Always start with the mind, you know, especially when it's intense moments like this. This when you really get to see the player smarts be displayed, especially, for example, like right now in the playoffs. Lakers got eliminated. Bucks got eliminated Milwaukee Bucks. I watched a little bit of those highlights. As you can see, Indiana just tore the Milwaukee Bucks apart. Very, very intense on the defense and making sure they get rebounds on the defensive, also offensive end. You know, you see in Timberwolves, they stepped up with Anthony Edwards. You see the Knicks, they doing their thing against the Sixers. You know, they basically, Bronson, shout out to him, you know, killed it in the series. You see a lot of underdog teams starting to step up. Like, who would have thought the Indiana Pacers and the Knicks would be in there? You know what I'm saying? So you really get to see, not only from an individual standpoint, IQ, but you get to see also the team, the smarts as a team and coming together as a conglomerate to really show how effective they can win this game and really show their skill set and when it's really useful and important times. Most importantly, an important playmaking part of the game or important playmaking moment in the game to be displayed, such as you see with Larry Bird. Long-term thinker of the game, always uses his mind first. That also went in sync with his skills and how magnificent and legendary he is, man. So at the end of the day, as the game is always evolving, a straight hooper like Larry Bird, he is always evolving. You know what I'm saying? So he still stayed himself to his original forms, like with the floaters and the fades and the post-ups, which he was very effective in. But he also knew how to push the pace when needed to be and also being within distance of trailing so he can gain the momentum to eventually gain the lead and win the game and close out, man. So it's about closing out.
What he already did. Even though he was still making history, Larry didn't have to prove anything more in the NBA.
Of course not.
He was once the best player in the world. He was once the absolute...
I don't care if it once. I don't care. Look, man. I'm a 1999 baby. I ain't get to see this legendary brother play. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the greatest. He is the greatest. You know what I'm saying? Watch your verbiage, man. Show respect to the man. Show respect to the man.
Leader of his generation. And he won 3 NBA championships.
He's a pioneer in this game.
And yes, he was entering the final years of his career, which were severely affected by injuries, but the bar he set was so high that his legend was already written. All right, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought down in the comments. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction video. Give this video a big thumbs up, man. Helps crush that YouTube algorithm. I hope you guys did enjoy the video along with my commentary. Comment down below your thoughts. Comment down below, did you feel like that Larry Bird was always evolving with the game, with his IQ and smarts being displayed within the game, especially this important time we had to show Michael Jordan a lesson to show him that he the big dog, you know what I'm saying? That he know what he's doing, and at the end of the day, you cannot outbeat wisdom with experience just because you have the confidence. Do you guys agree? Do you guys not agree? Comment down below. I would love to hear your opinions. To create a positive dialogue and conversation. Spread that peace, love, and positivity always. And on that note, family, peace.